My guest is Congressman Thad McCotter from Michigan. Congressman McCotter, people on Twitter are as they say, they're ROFL, rolling on the floor laughing over your comment about Stephen Cruzer's hair.
Well, truth hurts, or sometimes it can be funny. I mean, look, I'm bald. I envy anybody with hair, but I think you take better care of it if you're graced with it.
All right. So tell us, what do you think, what do you expect from this incoming GOP Congress here in 2011?
I think, Rick, one of the most important things for people to remember is that we control the House. It was a big wave election year, but the Republicans did not gain a majority in the Senate. We obviously did not have a presidential election. So you have to remember how outnumbered the House Republicans are. What we're going to do then in that situation is come at it as earnest as we can, as dedicated as we can, and keep the word that we gave to the people who entrusted us with this office. And it's going to start next week when you see the bill to repeal health care. Now, I know that there's a lot of people out there on the left that are saying this is a stunt or that we shouldn't do it because it's not going to pass. And my response to that is very simple. It's not our fault the Democratic senators and the president aren't listening to the American people. They want health care repealed and replaced with something better. So why should we break our promise to the American people to try to repeal and replace it with something better simply because of the intransigence of the Senate or the president?
You know, Congressman McCotter, I'm not saying this just because you're a guest on this show. I mean, it's easy to do that. But you and I have never met. You and I have never spoken until now. I've listened to you when Davi interviewed you on a show. I've watched you on Red Eye. You strike me, McCain was known as the Maverick. It was really more of someone that was that tried to compromise with the left, in my opinion. You strike me as a non-conformist, a non-establishment conservative. When I hear you say that, we've got to live up to those words on repealing health care, I take you at face value. I take you at your word. I'm not so sure that all newly elected and those reelected are going to have that backbone.
Well, you have to take it one day at a time, and it's one of the things that you do in elective office, and I think the people are doing it is, look, no one's perfect by everyone's standards, so just one day at a time. Do the best you can, and remember, we represent constituents. I guess I'm a Burke, Kirk, Buckley philosophical conservative. I don't have a checklist. I think America's a country. It has to be governed as one. You do your best for your constituents, and you find common ground on your own side, and then you try to find it on the other. So it's not very difficult, and you're judged by whether or not it works. Americans are very practical people. They're non-ideological. They're not into abstraction. They don't draw from the cesspool of Rousseau's ideology.
I agree.
So what they do is, if it works, it works, and if it's good, it's good. And if you're not, they'll throw you out. When you enter office, you call me a nonconformist. I think President Bush one time called me the anti-candidate, which I considered a compliment.
Absolutely.
Well, given our relationship at times. But when you look at it very simply, you're in there for a certain period of time. It's not your office, and then you'll be gone. And one of the beauties of our free republic, and I find it refreshing, is when you spend all that time running for election to Congress, people want to send one of their members of their community to represent them, and the minute you're elected, you're a bum.
Yeah.
I think it shows that the people know that they're in charge and that you're the servant, and so it's kind of a compliment.
Sort of the beauty, if you will, of American politics, huh?
Well, never forget, and I like to tell school classes that. I said the difference between us is in the time before the Revolution, there was a pyramid. The king was on top, the people were on the bottom. The Revolution inverted it. The people who run the country are your parents. They're not the people in Washington.
We had the famed is the wrong word, the well respected and highly regarded Scott Rasmussen, political pollster, on here recently.
Great guy.
Great guy. Scott Rasmussen said, you know what, his recent poll numbers show that only 21% of the American people trust elected officials. I want to clarify. Some people said that's up from 13. If I'm not mistaken, 13% was a likability factor. This is trust, something completely different. Only 21% trust elected officials. They don't trust either party. And
8% trust people they don't like, evidently.
That's right. Exactly. And that, the Republicans didn't win in November. Obama administration ideology was rejected in November. What do you take from that?
I agree with that. I think it was a wave election based upon the American people seeing this was no longer the party of Harry Truman and Jack Kennedy or centrist Democrats. This had become a leftist Democratic Party. And they forget that President Obama beat Hillary Clinton, who was no slouch in liberalism, from the left of the Democratic Party. And I think that when they were given the chance to govern, they were obviously elected 2 years before the president, but when they were able to show the American people with total control of Washington, including a filibuster-proof number in the Senate prior to the passing of Senator Kennedy, the American people said, well, okay, let's see what they got, and they saw it. Because in the past, they'd been in a minority as that transition from a centrist left party under Bill Clinton had become a leftist party. And when the American people saw it, they couldn't believe it. And then when they tried to slow it down and tell them, no, this isn't what we want, they were totally disregarded, and they had things foisted upon them they did not want or did not work. And so a lot of Americans are walking around going, well, I guess that is not the party that we thought it was going to be. Now, as a Republican, what I take out of that is they did not, there's a long road to redemption here, and the Republicans have just started to walk it. We have not been embraced or perceived to have atoned fully for the mismanagement under our watch. So that's why I go back to you have to start and you have to take from the proposition that it's a chance to prove yourself you've been given. It's not a chance to show that you've been vindicated already.
You strike me as a Tea Party, someone whose ideas and values are in alignment with the Tea Party group. Is that true?
Well, I think so, but every Tea Party's different. One of the things that I think the Tea Party is missed, and one of the beauties of it that I find, is that it depends where you go. It's a community-based, truly spontaneous grassroots movement.
Yeah.
And it's localized, and yet it has a national resonance because of it. In many ways, it shows pretty much what the founders wanted, where you represent a community. Members are elected by district. Senators are elected by state. When the Tea Party comes, there are community-based Tea Parties that overlap with ones that are on a regional basis or a state basis. And so I think that it depends where you are. Obviously there are principles in common that everybody shares, the sovereignty of the people, the fact that people in Washington work for them, the concern about the fiscal future. And overall, one of the things that I think isn't spoken about but is there, that is often overlooked, especially by the left, is that this is a philosophically conservative movement. It's about protecting a cherished way of life. It's not just simply about dollars and cents. It's about keeping America the world's greatest nation.
That's right. That's the overarching